is a Fairbanks-Morse. This is kind of an unusual model. It's a 5-tube set. Has the usual knobs. This knob is broken. I might be able to fill it in. Maybe paint it brown. I don't know. Cabinet needs to be refinished. That's fine. But the biggest problem is this hole in the side. Here's the chassis. You can see someone replaced this dial, which it's okay. It's not the best. Expert tape job on the dial amp. That's good. Transformer has been replaced. I don't think a Philco transformer came with this, so that's a replacement. All the tubes are replacements. This would have come with the shoulder type tubes. There isn't a single one left. Capacitor missing. Chassis has been worked on. It has this floppy mess over here. This is not even this floating in midair. I love this wire that connects from here to a capacitor, which is flopping around over here to chassis ground. Forgot that capacitor. And that right there is a line bypass capacitor, not been changed. The cord is 17 miles long. Speaker has been replaced at some point. I don't believe this came with a Jensen speaker, although that's a good speaker, so I'm not complaining. Yeah, grommets are not in the best shape, but you know, if I don't have anything better, they may stay. It's kind of a shame. This has really not been worked on very well, and it supposedly works, although who knows? I have no idea. The volume control here has been replaced. You can see someone has done something crazy over here. I don't know. So the shaft is about right length, so I'm not complaining about that. Should be a fuse. In a set like this, I would put a fuse in it. There's no fuse. So, you know, I still have to figure this out. Do I want to do this right and redo all this mess? Do I want to just change the couple capacitors, add a fuse, maybe get rid of this stupid, you know, power cord that's longer than Great Wall of China? This annoys me. That's really not the right way to do it. That's really the wrong way to do it, in fact. I don't know what capacitor that is. I'll have to look at the marking on it. I mean, these aren't old. This is probably done within the past, 10 years. So there's nothing wrong with these parts. All right, so the first thing that I have a problem with, I just talk about all the problems I have, right? First thing is this. Look at what they did, right? So here's the cord. They put the old cord, they soldered it to the old cord. Here again, same thing. Got an old cord, soldered it to the old cord. Why would you do that? So that kind of annoys me. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I was thinking, do I just try to power this up and see what happens? I mean, I was told it works. The guy who I bought it from was a collector, but didn't fix them. He had no idea how to fix them. He had this done. He paid someone to do that. So again, this is why, with anything else, when you pay someone to do work on something like this, you really have to make sure you're going to someone who knows what they're doing, and you expect a certain level of work to be done, right? So, when I fix a radio like this, and I don't do this for other people, this is just me for a hobby, but, when I fix a radio like this, this is not something I would do. I wouldn't attach a new cord to an old cord. Right? That's not something you do. Why not just solder it right there? It's there. I mean, it's right here. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is these line bypass capacitors, these plastic ones, love to explode. So, I have a whole thing full of capacitors. These are Y rated. Actually, I think they're X and Y rated. It'll tell you here. Yeah. X1 and Y2, 400 volts across the line and 250 volt is AC, by the way, line bypass. So these are safe to install in the place of this. And why wouldn't you do that? This thing costs like, I don't know, 30 cents, 40, I don't even know what it costs, but it's next to nothing. So why wouldn't you do that? I mean, risk have someone, this is a paper capacitor, risk having someone blow up their radio, or at least have a loud bang and whatever, or just put this cheap part in. I don't even know where to begin on this. I mean, it's not going to short. It'll be okay, but you couldn't put a terminal strip in anywhere? There's no place for a terminal strip. And why? Why would you take this capacitor? See, it's going to ground here. There's a ground connection right there. Why wouldn't you put it there? Could you just not fit your soldering iron in there? I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense, but I think I'm going to replace that one and just put it in down there. The other thing I want to check is, since obviously I don't trust this guy's work, how are the resistors in the set? They might be 50%, 100% high. I have no idea. But he didn't change any of them, so he probably didn't check them. That's probably something I should do. And then the other thing is, if he did all this, wonderful work with, love the zip ties, by the way. If he did that, did he do anything else on it? I mean, did he align it? Did he test the tubes? I don't know. Maybe. So, unfortunately, this, which I thought was going to be a, fairly done project, this is a project to start from the beginning, essentially. I mean, yes, these caps here, they're okay. I'll leave them, these down here. That's okay. I mean, it's not, I don't love the J hook method. It's not my favorite, but I mean, there's no point in replacing parts that are already good unless they're really just badly done. And then, like I said, with this up here, I might do something. I'm not sure. I have to figure it out. This antenna wire, which goes here, I'm going to put a longer wire. This sticks out, like that. That's not enough. So I'll put a longer wire in there, and I'll probably make it yellow or a bright color. So I just want to show you here, I'm putting a grommet on the area where the power cord goes. That way it won't rub on the chassis. I don't always do that, but I figure on this set I might as well do it. This will give it a little nicer, what do you call it, entrance point for the power cord. Okay, so I removed one capacitor from up there and I installed it down here like it should be. This is down in the corner. It's not going anywhere. This is how it's supposed to be. I'm going to have to take a look up here and figure out the rest of them. I don't love the way that it's set up. I mean, these are really, it's not really done well at all. Center tap is here. Obviously, there was some kind of terminal at some point, probably was on the capacitor. The old capacitor was probably up there, and it just they ran up there, and we're connected to it. The right way to do it is to put a terminal strip in, and I may have one, and I hate drilling holes, but this is so badly done, I might just do it. I fixed the cord. This is how it's supposed to look. You have a knot down here. That's good. I'm going to do one on the outside, don't worry. I have this nice rubber here so it won't start coming apart. This is not too tight, so it's not going to pull on anything. You have your capacitor replaced, the safety capacitor, whatever, that's garbage. I put the fuse in over here, goes directly to the power switch. So that's right, it's a 1/2 amp fuse, should be enough, I'm guessing, but I think it is. So already we're in a better place than before. I'm not gonna, I was able to reuse that old capacitor. These are perfectly good capacitors, there's nothing wrong with them. So I'm not gonna, start throwing them away. These electrolytics, I don't know. They look like they might be a brand. Let's see, I can't tell. What brand are they? SuperTech, they're fine. That's a decent brand. So that's okay. I'll definitely keep those. They are rated at 450 volts. I prefer a 500 for the first filter, but I don't think this puts out as high of a voltage. I'm going to have to double check on that. If that's true, then, you know, I'll leave them. Otherwise, I might just swap out the first filter for a 500 volt rated. I have plenty of them. Just show you here what I did. I removed more crazy capacitors and put them back over here where they're supposed to go. That's a little neater. And I still got this one here. This is a 0.1, a 0.01, 104, no, 0.1. This is flopping around here. Now, I love this. This is just professional. Resistor here. Glue on this wire connecting to this point. Now, why did he do that? Well, I don't know. Great question. Same thing here. You have a capacitor, right? This is a, I don't know, 10 microfarad, I think, connecting to that point, right? Why is it not connected directly to that point? Why is this old floppy wire hanging? So, unfortunately, what I'm going to have to do in order to do this right is to, and I don't know what he did with this. I think I can at least attach some leads to it and make it usable, but I mean, this should have been much neater. So I put in a terminal strip here. What I did was I installed, so I don't really like drilling holes if I don't have to. So I installed a capacitor to block this to, make it look a little better, because there's only one was missing, just for looks. And I installed a terminal strip on the bottom of it. It's not going to go anywhere. And then what I'm going to do is reroute this mess, and I can pick 2 or 3. It doesn't really matter how many of these terminals I use. I only need really 2 connections. I think what I want to do is reroute this. This is the center tap and associated wiring. Reroute it to the end here. I might have to get an extension on some of these wires. And this resistor, whatever, it is what it is. It'll have to be extended probably, but what I'd like to do is mount this cap just over here, have it nice neat going up there, and then the other 2 caps going to the other side. I think that will be a lot neater and cleaner of a look. Okay, as I'm going through here cleaning things up, all this wiring was attached to this big chunk that was taped off with a bunch of old friction tapes. It was probably done a while ago. The resistor here, which is a 2.2 meg, is measuring 3.2, so that should be replaced. I should have one. I'm going to look. Worst case, I can put a couple 1 megs in series and it should work. But yeah, it's definitely a mess. I mean, just trying to clean this up so that it goes to one place, and like this is solid. It's not going to go anywhere, and it'll be safe. I'm starting to reconnect here. I've got this reconnected. This is the B minus. That's the the center tap, and it goes to one side of the field coil, which is in the negative. I've got this resistor. This big one connects over here. This other capacitor, when I clean that up, wow, like really. They left that there. That connects to the positive of the other one. This is kind of annoying, so I might just change that one. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, so I'm getting there. I put these and they're not moving around. This resistor is supposed to be a 22K. It is measuring 35K, so that needs to be replaced. It's not a big deal. I have a 22K 10 watt, which is way overkill. That's probably a 2 watt, but it's what I have, so I'll throw that in there. And yeah, we're getting pretty close to straightening this up. This extra capacitor, I don't know what they were doing. They put a capacitor in parallel with the filter cap. Why? I don't know. I mean, it can't be doing anything. It adds, what is this? 0.01 microfarads, or maybe it's a 0.1. I don't know. It's almost nothing. So like, why is it there? Okay, we have a much better situation here. the capacitors are actually not just kind of flopping. You know, they are pretty solid now. They are actually connected to real terminals. Things look a little neater. I'll just bring you up over here. So that's a little nicer looking. And I've changed at least two resistors that were, three resistors, I'm sorry, that were completely out of tolerance that someone else missed because, you know, they didn't check them clearly. I don't always check resistors, but in a set like this where it has a voltage divider and it's been butchered like nothing else, it is worth spending the few seconds that it takes to check them. Now, what do I have to do? Well, I still have this capacitor over here that I have to swap out. That's a 0.1 that has no voltage on it. Really, it's from the antenna coil, but I'm going to do it, so we'll change that. And then down here, I want to check these couple resistors. I bet they're out of tolerance. And this capacitor, I don't know what's going on with that. I couldn't find it on the schematic. I'm going to double check, but I think that was someone had no idea what they were doing and they just stuck it in there. Okay, these are basically, I changed that capacitor over there. I checked these resistors. They're actually okay. It was just those over there that were a problem. And, you know, this is now in a place where it's a little safer and it certainly looks better. This is something that I can deal with. Before it was too much of a mess. Give it 25 volts. This is with a different rectifier. It's a little more promising. 55 volts. $60 volts. $70. I hear something. $80 volts. What band am I on? What is that? Well, that's kind of cool, actually. Ooh. Shortwave. Okay, that's actually really cool. This is AM?
He's stolen 15 bases and only been caught 4 times.
Maybe
He is tied for 9th in the American League in steals. And the Yankees
that's better.
don't run a whole lot. But Volpe does. That guy is in the batter's box now. Hits a whole lot, and that is Juan Soto. And time called. Just as Peterson was delivering his pitch, he might have been a little late doing it. I think it's going to be a pitch clock violation, and it's going to be ball 1 to Rock. On the clouds, there could be a late day thunderstorm in spot.
Thunderstorm.
93.
I guess when the bottom's lit up, it's shortwave, and when the top, it's whatever this. Oh, that's police band, and then that's shortwave, and then you've got your broadcast when everything's lit up. That's cool. I like that. So, bad rectifier tube goes in the garbage. So cool. I'm gonna have to obviously check all the other tubes because if that one was bad, it never would have worked. I mean, the guy said it worked. It might have worked, but all right. So here's the dial lamp socket. I don't really care about this tape too much, but what I am concerned about is this is just kind of loose here, and there should be a grommet holding that in. So let's see if I can put something in there. Okay, I put a grommet in there. I'm leaving the tape. That's fine. It doesn't really matter. So that's at least stable. The bottom one is okay. It's not great, but this was the problem. I'm going to go in here and I would love to change those grommets on the bottom, but unfortunately the whole thing, it's like a big rivet and I don't have a way of removing it without destroying it, so I'm not going to do that. This, believe it or not, the grommets for the tuning capacitor are fine. So that's going to stay. The dial, I have a couple options here. So I see what they did. They put some, what do you call it? Just some string around it. And, you know, the way that this is probably supposed to be held on, it probably had clips, like push clips that held it in. I mean, the thing is, you don't see this, so it's not really a big issue. That being said, if I wanted to fix it, I could put rivets in it, but then of course if I ever need to get it apart, forget it. So I think we're going to leave it. So here's a 6A8. I'm going to test this side. Let's just see. That tests good. Okay, this is a 6K7, so we'll give it a second here. That's good. Okay, those are the tubes here. This is a 6F6 here. Let's see. I'm gonna give it a minute. Sometimes these test like in the middle and they're still fine. I'm gonna give it a minute to warm up a little more. Yeah, it's coming up actually. And we'll just keep waiting. I was unable to test the 6Q7 because for some reason I don't have the settings for it. I don't know why. Yeah, that's like enough where it's good. Okay, we got the I don't like that. I'm gonna have to figure that out better. There we go. Get this off of the station just to help out a little. So the way we do this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is at 456. Wow. So this was not aligned. Wow. Should have just closed that tuning capacitor, so let's do it again. Wow.
Tragic death which we're learning of today on Friday of a Department of Transportation worker on the Of course, you know, the news of the day aside. 718-2680.
This thing is just... Come on. This came alive.
Parliamentary.
He believes
Early days.
Amazing.
within Africa there are some countries that have looked at
That's pretty impressive.
Say, oh, I can totally relate to Christina. We've got a lot coming
This is
at us
great.
in this world.
I'm gonna shut that off. Yeah, so I mean, that was basically the issue here, is that it was not aligned. That's just an IF alignment. That was at 456. It's a little different. Most of these radios are 455. So, okay, it's a little different, but it's fine. Here is the Fairbanks-Morse.
housing and transportation.
Very sensitive for a 5-tube radio.
I think I said like 우리의 주어진 길을.
You mean,
But I
Your
one, one, and two.
one, two, and you know one.
I know.
Okay.
660
Anyway, all right. My next one.
WFAN.
T in America is divided into
Greatest filmmaker.
It's a little off, but
and geographic boundaries into which people vote. When you go vote,
600.
you show up at a voting
Very
precinct.
clear
Some voting
audio.
precincts are very large. Some are small. It depends. Okay.
23 fiscal year,
880,
U.S. Customs
which
and
is
Border Protection
unfortunately
reported more
going
than
away.
2.4 million encounters with migrants along the U.S.
It was a
southwest border
CBS
since
station
an
which
app was
became
launched in January
Entercom, and
2023
now it's
that allows
Odyssey.
migrants to apply
They've
for
decided
asylum
to divest
appointments.
themselves of all CBS branding, so they sold the station. Now it's going to be yet another sports station. Oh boy. This radio has come out okay. There's still a little damage here. This didn't come out quite the way I wanted, but it's okay. I also did a repair up here, which blends in. It's okay. But it's still a nice radio. It'll look good in the living room. It definitely will have a nice look to it. I love the dial. Shut that off. There's a little bit of a hum to it, but it's not too bad. You can definitely listen to it. Some of these radios are like that, but this came out great. I do want to fix this knob. I'll probably put some JB Weld in there and then sand it and maybe paint it brown. Other than that, it's basically done. Yeah, here's 1010 wins. Needs a longer antenna.
Nassau County, westbound Long Island Expressway at
But
Stansfield and
it's
Sunnyside Boulevard
it is.
past South Oyster Bay Road with a
Sounds
crash
nice.
blocking 2 right lanes. If you're not in the truck, you're on the westbound Northern State Parkway.
Love the
I'm
dial.
Greg Rice,
And
1010
that
wins
is
on 92.3 FM.
Really,
The driver in this week's fatal wrong way crash on Long Island
Very
completed
nice.
9.
I wanted to stay right there, break out
so
my
this is
fishing
kind of
tackle, and take a crack
a
at some of
special
the huge
edition.
ones.
Turn this down for a second. It's kind of a special edition. One of our stations here is CBS Radio 880, which went on the air in 1967. And it was one of the early stations to do an all-news format. It's a little bit like 1010 Wins, which ended up being a CBS station as well. So a few years ago, a company basically bought, CBS divested itself of its radio division, and it became Entercom, which then was struggling and rebranded itself as Odyssey. And since it became Odyssey and has been sold off and separated from CBS, they have been trying to rid themselves of all CBS branding. Now, WCBS here in, relatively close in New York, they, were one of the last stations, along with KCBS, which is a very popular station in the San Francisco Bay Area. We also have WBZ, which is using some of their news and content relatively close in Boston. And then there's KDKA in Pittsburgh, which again uses much of the content from CBS. And then over in Los Angeles, there is KNX, which is also an Entercom, Odyssey, whatever station. Are all of them going to be going away? Probably not, but they saw an opportunity to sell some of their stations, and ESPN has been trying to, for years, get into the New York City market, where 660 WFAN has basically been the sports radio station for years, 30-something years, since the late 80s. I don't know if this is going to work for them. So ESPN Radio had an FM station, it was 98.1 for a while. Didn't really work. They had an AM station. Don't ask me what the frequency was. I want to say it was like 1080 or 1090, something like that. Again, didn't really work for them. So they think that by going over to 880, it's a very popular frequency in the New York City metro area. It has a very good signal. Anyway, they feel that it will work for them. By doing that, I don't know if that's true. Unfortunately, we are going to be missing out on the all news format, which covered the surrounding area. I mean, they covered not just New York City, but New Jersey, Connecticut, even sometimes would talk about Pennsylvania or Mass, Rhode Island. So they would kind of, and not for anything else, but you could actually pick up 880 in Providence and in Mass, and all up and down the East Coast and well into New England at night. Up in northern New Hampshire and Maine, you can easily get 880 at night anyway. So we're going to tune in over to 880 tonight and see if we can catch the last 15 or so minutes of CBS radio.
This one didn't last very long. Headlines. WCBS News Time, 3:15. Time for News 88 Sports. And the big sports story today involves Kevin McReynolds, who has extended his lease at Shea Stadium in the Pacific Ring. Howard Canada has more about that. It was supposed to be Kevin McReynolds' day of 3-year contract. Now the 90s, more than just the headlines. Traffic.
So here they are going through all the jingles and what they did in the
CBS
different
News on the
decades.
hour.
CBS News, I'm Mike Kelsifer.
News, traffic, and weather for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. We are News Radio, WCBS 880. Big theme music at the top of the hour. This just in. Network rejoin. Live from the CBS Hudson Square Broadcast Center in Manhattan, we are News Radio. WCBS HD, WCBS FM HD2, New York. CBS Top of the Hour, 60s to today. We interrupt this program during the CBS Radio Net Alert Bulletin. That's sharp. CBS Radio Special Report. CBS Radio Sports. is Win Elliott for CBS Radio Sports Central USA. Every referee signal on a playing field has a special meaning, and now on CBS Radio, we've got a new set of signals that means great listening on this station. Our sports signature sounds like this. It means My Sports Central USA. This is Douglas Edwards. CBS News on the Hour is the sound of news in the making. And this sound introduces our comprehensive news coverage. Distinctively CBS Radio, signaling CBS News. Listen for the signature. And you'll be listening to CBS News on CBS Radio, where what you want to know comes first. Good morning. This is Steve Porter welcoming you to WCBS News Radio 88. Good morning. This is Charles Osgood, News Radio 88.
Welcome to the best news source around, WCBS News Radio 88. Local and regional developments coming right up. This is Bill Fayen. It's 5 minutes past 4 o'clock.
The winds east-southeast at 10 to 18 miles per hour.
You know him, don't you? That's Bob Harris.
Do you know me? Many people in the West Village.
News 88 WCBS in New York, 27th of November, a Monday, 36 degrees, 5:30.
The news on us, headlines. A lot of snow on us today. Season's first snarls traffic.
4 tones will follow. The final loudest one marks the exact time.
We've been marking time for a lifetime. Now it's that amazing signal there, 50,000 watts pulsating out, will continue as these names go away. We take these last minutes to celebrate our relationship, yours and mine, and Paul's, and Bridget's, and Michael, and Steve, and Tanya, and Levon, and on, to Pat's, Parson, Fornak, Carol, Jeff Kaplan, Deborah Rodriguez, Gary Moore, Ben Farnsworth, Jim Donnelly, Lou Adler, Charles Osgood, Steve Porter, Harvey Hobman, Rita Sands, Tom Franklin, Bill Fayen, Bob Glenn, John Wydra, Palmer Payne, Alan Shaw, Ralph Howard, Greg Baker, Bob Gibson, Jack Welby, Harley Carnes, Therese Crowley, Vicki Allen, John Metaxas, Jim Taylor, John Miller, John Lesher, Joe Avalar, Anita Bonita, Kathy Carpin, B.J. Fennell, I remember you, B.J., Mitch Levy, nicest guy in the world, Mike Sugarman, Janice Wright, Steve Knight, Karen Riegel, Mary Alice Williams, Ed Crane, Maria Garcia, Cameron Swayze, Bud Mishkin, Suzanne Colucci, Ashok Bala, Bill Whitney, Dick Reeves, Rich Lamb, Peter Haskell, Marla Diamond, Sean Adams, Fran Schneido, Alex Silverman, Ellen Mitchell, Sophia Hall, Mac Rosenberg, Mike Zirinax, Bob Vosberg, Jeff Grant, Lisa Fantino, Frank Cipolla, Doug Spiro, Darlene Pomales, Linda Zoman, Steve Malave, Mike Smeltz, Sean Colford, a.k.a. Michael Cole, Catherine Chaffee, Bob Brown, Eric Scott, Gordon Deal, Kelly Waldron, Jim Incendio, Jerry Nachman, Jane Tillman Irving, Mary Gay Taylor, Fred Fishkin, Walt Wheeler, Ed Bradley, Tim Show, and the renowned reporters for whom awards are named and still handed out. Art Atkins, Steve Flanders, Edward R. Murrow, Lou Timolot, Tom Salat, Terry Raskin, Joe Nolan, Chris Majette, Jim Feldman, Andre Farrow, Tom O'Hanlon, Russ Meyer, Lori Jordan, Lou Adams, Debbie Mazzella, Neil Bush, Tom Kaminsky, Dr. Justine Bob Harris, Norm McDonald, Bill Cromwell, Gordon Barnes, Todd Glickman, Craig Allen, Brad Heller, Jared Max, Gordon Damer, Kevin Burkhardt, Kevin Connors, Bill Daughtry, Bill Schweitzer, Rich Ackerman, Howie Carpin, Tommy Tye, Todd Ant, Gary Stanley, Howard Cannon, Spencer Ross, Barry Landers, Howie Rose, Len Berman, Pat Summerall, Ed Ingalls, Gordon Williams, Ray Hoffman, Dean Shepard, Ken Pruitt, Joe Connolly, the CBS Radio Network, and its legions of correspondents, reporters, anchors, and commentators. Harry Reisner, Dan Rather, Walter Cronkite. The Osgood File. Now, what I did there was probably a huge mistake, because these are the people just off the top of my head. If I forgot you, I didn't forget you. This is all just happening so fast. But a special nod to one man who was a producer, a writer, reporter, and anchor over the years, and who had, and has, CBS in his blood, who maintains the most thorough and loving website of WCBS News Radio. That's a man I'm proud to call my friend, Don Swain.
And thanks to all of his contributors, most notably John Landers, on the WCBS News Radio 88 Appreciation site. Go to it. It's amazing. Now, if we had hours, not just minutes left, we would name all the people you've never heard on the air, except in the credits, supporting those of us on the air and supporting journalism. The legions of people behind the scenes writing, producing, engineering are an innumerable and invaluable part of our history. Wicked smart people showing up at all hours, weekends, Thanksgiving, Christmas, so that whenever you turned on 880, you were closer to your world. The WCBS passion and pride spilled into a sales force that revered these call letters and the CBS legacy every bit as much as you and I do. Advocates for our craft who showed advertisers how we, the audience, are smart, discerning, engaging, and caring. Caring. We have given our advertising dollars and our charitable dollars through so many hunger-thons, for example. You held us to a high standard and let us know when we didn't hit the mark. All of us here knew that our audience is engaged and smart, and we need to treat our audience with the respect that a well-informed, well-educated news consumer deserves. That's right, deserves. Our news desert is getting bigger and drier. And just like we should get a second medical opinion, we need to seek out more and more varied news sources that we trust, because getting your information without the bias and brainwashing in one place has given way to a fight to stay informed. With each closing newspaper, radio newsroom, TV newsroom, magazine, and now even digital news operations, the country we love is diminished. So as we leave the news ecosystem after 57 years of all news and 100 years of service on New York radio, we implore you to find that next trusted source. Use it, support it, in word and deed. It is the most patriotic thing you can do, and the most satisfying. To paraphrase a CBS News legend, good night and good luck. You will ask, why does this radio station mean so much? Why is the reaction the way it is? And I really can't speak for others. I can speak for myself. My parents split when I was 11. We split Christmas, and when I was at Dad's house, he gave me a clock. And this one had a beam at the top that shined the time onto the ceiling. I wanted to make sure it was set correctly, so I went to the station I heard in the back of the car, WCBS, to make sure the time was exactly right. And I listened and listened, and before long, I became hooked. As a 12, 13-year-old. When I was 14, my dad drove me to the radio station in New York City during morning rush hour traffic. And he introduced me to the place I'm now signing off in 2024. Ray Martell, here's your last request. Chris Olivero, Ben Meverek, Ivan Lee, our bosses pushed for and got the authority to let us have our goodbyes, to have a last show. That's something very rare. I thank them for that. And I thank my dad for driving me into New York City in 1978. Parents, you never know what impact these random acts of love and attention may have on your children. I'm Wayne Cabot, and for the final time, this is WCBS, New York.
WHSQ and WCBS-FM HD2, New York.
The lead over the Braves in the NL East to 6 after Atlanta's loss to Washington. Girls and Astros played in Sunday Night Baseball. Houston salvaged a split in the 4-game series in Baltimore.
And Georgia.
Well, that is the end of CBS 880, and now we have WHSQ Sports Radio. I don't know how successful it will be. I guess we'll find out. A couple things that he mentioned. Mentioned the name Fran Schneidow, who actually got her start at our local radio station, which is still on the air, WICC 600, which is kind of funny because they very proud to be a local station, and they really have continued that. And they actually were part of a larger company, Cumulus, for a while, and then got bought by a local company who really tries to promote local content, which is wonderful. So they're very popular here, and people really love them. They have a good morning show. They have, some good people on in the afternoon. They have a lot going for them. The other thing which I thought was worth just mentioning is, he mentioned that as these news sources kind of disappear, which you have newspapers going out of business, our local paper is gone. We had a local paper in town. We had the town next to us had three papers that you could get, and they're all gone. They've all gotten bought up by, it was Hearst Media, and then they basically shut down every local paper and just consolidated it into a few papers that I don't really know if anyone reads anymore. But essentially what ends up happening is you have people who are, locally at least, uninformed. They don't know what's happening, and people are shocked. So, for example, in my town, a handful of people wanted to put in a dog park in the middle of the woods somewhere, and they basically got it to a vote, and hardly anyone showed up to vote because no one had any idea it was happening. And they, the people, the small group of people who wanted it showed up to vote, and of course it went through. And well, now it's gotten even crazier because there's someone who's suing, saying that it's not handicapped accessible, which I'm not much for frivolous lawsuits, but I think she's actually right on this one. CBS is gone, and there's going to be one less station. Now, yes, there's 1010 Wins, which is pretty similar. You'll get the same content pretty much, a little bit less of the surrounding areas. Yes, you can listen to WBZ, which, will give you the general news in the Boston area. Now, of course, that will also give you a bunch of other stuff that you may or may not want. I don't know, because that's not just a 24/7 news outlet like 1010 Wins or 880 was. Another thing about the news going away, it spreads this misinformation. So, for example, there was some flooding, serious flooding locally, and there was a story going around that a local wedding event venue collapsed and trapped a bunch of people inside, and it was spreading all over the internet, because that's how things go online. And it turns out it's completely false. Someone just made it up and put it online, and someone sees it online, and it must be true, right? So, unfortunately, these sources like the radio and newspapers and, more official, I can't say unbiased, because everything has a bias, whether it's a written bias or a selection bias of what they publish and don't publish. It still at least gives you access to an official line that's somewhat vetted, that has, reporters digging and doing research on the stories. I do think there is room for another outlet to open up a news station, which could be very interesting if that's what they decide to do. I don't know if that'll happen. But I wanted to give you the last few moments of CBS 880. And I thought also, it was kind of interesting because this Fairbanks-Morse, was from 1937, and in its life, which it's been brought back to life now, CBS 880 has been around for the majority of its life, from 1967 until now, and it's still going. Obviously it's playing, but the majority of its life, CBS 880 existed. And it was really only the first portion, which, to be fair, was probably the most used portion of its life. I'm sure this didn't get much use after the 60s or 70s. So yeah, it's definitely a sad moment, and I'm not real happy about it. I did listen to it. I do listen to other AM stations. I love our local station. I listen to 1010 Wins. It is what it is. This is what the media has become. It's become very much a marketing. It's a marketing thing. It's who's our audience and how do we reach them? How do we get people who meet these attributes to listen or watch our content? And that's kind of, they're catering to their listeners on NPR, and then so was any of the other stations. I mean, Fox News is catering to their listeners, and CNN is catering to theirs, and so on. They're just trying to make their listeners and watchers, viewers, happy by playing the things that they want to hear or see. and unfortunately that doesn't really give you a good unbiased place to just hear the news. And to be honest, that's what I want. I just want to hear the news. I don't want to hear someone's opinion. I have my own opinion on things. It's irrelevant to the story itself. And the other past Odyssey stations, or I guess they're still Odyssey right now, continue to be around for now. That may change. I think we will see some other changes. I think they'll figure out that they can get more money by broadcasting sports. So you will see lots more sports content. And sports makes money, and news makes less. Anyway, that is the end of CBS 880, and it's nice that this radio is around to hear it. So this is the special edition of my YouTube show, just to kind of go over this topic, because I felt that it was important, and it's kind of a historic, in a sad way, historic moment. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn that off.